Today, we'll be making a very interesting card. It is called a pop-up swing arm card. This card is very lovely. In this video, I'll show you how to make it. Here are the materials needed. If you want, you can pause the video at this time and ensure that you have all the materials before we begin. So let's start. So first off, take a white Bristol board and measure it at 10 and 6/8 inches in length and 4 inches in width. Cut out that white Bristol board. Measure another white Bristol board, the same length and width. Length 10 and 6/8 inches and width 4 inches. Cut out that white Bristol board. So now you have two pieces of white Bristol board cut at the same length and width. Take one of the white Bristol board and draw a line at 5 and 3/8 inches from the end of the white Bristol board using the back of the knife. Do the same thing for the second piece of white Bristol board. Draw a line at 5 and 3/8 inches from the end of the white Bristol board using the back of the knife. Fold those Bristol boards in half. Crease the fold well using a ruler. Place glue on one of the folded Bristol board and place the other white Bristol board on top of that white Bristol board. Ensure that the middle and ends of the card is snug well together. Please especially crease the middle of the card. Of course, double check to ensure is the exact size that you want and cut out any extra edges of the white Bristol board if there are any. Take now a manila folder and measure it at length 4 and 6/8 inches and width 3 and 3/8 inches. Cut out that rectangle. This rectangle will be going in the middle of the front of the card. So place dots at 5/16 of an inch from the top, bottom, and sides of the front of the card. Place glue on the manila rectangle that we cut out and stick that rectangle between the dots. Taking our scrap paper, measure it at length 4 and 1/8 inches and width 2 and 6/8 inches. Cut out that rectangle. Trace out that scrap on a gift paper. Cut out that shape. Place dots at 5/16 of an inch from the top, bottom, and sides of the front of the card on the manila folder. Place glue on the gift paper rectangle that we cut out and stick that rectangle between the dots on the manila folder. The card is taking shape well at this time. Take a white Bristol board and measure it at 4.5 inches in length and 3 and 4/8 inches in width. Cut out that white Bristol board. Place a line in the middle of that rectangle using the back of the knife. Place glue on that rectangle and fold that rectangle in half. Crease the rectangle well. Of course, again double check to ensure the exact size that you want and cut out any extra edges of the white Bristol board, if there are any. Take now a manila folder and measure it at length 1 and 7/8 inches and width 3 and 1/8 inches. Cut out that rectangle. This rectangle will be going in the middle of the wide Bristol board as shown. So place dots at 1/8 of an inch from the top, bottom, and sides of the small wide Bristol board. Place glue on the manila rectangle that we cut out and stick that rectangle between the dots. Place dots at 1/8 of an inch from the top, bottom, and sides on the manila folder. Take now a wide Bristol board, measure it at length 1.5 inches and width 2 6/8 inches. Cut out that rectangle. Place glue on the wide Bristol board that we just cut out and stick the rectangle between the dots on the manila folder. Taking a gift paper with a flower design, cut out the flower. Place glue on the flower and stick it between the wide Bristol board as shown. Take a wide Bristol board and measure it at 3 inches in length and 1.5 inches in width. Cut out that rectangle and place a line in the middle of that rectangle using the back of the knife. Place glue on the rectangle and fold the rectangle in half to form a square. Trim off any extra edges of the wide Bristol board if there are any. Next, place a 6/8 inch square in the corner of the bigger square and cut out that smaller square as shown. Take another wide Bristol board and measure it at 7 inches in length and 1 inch in width. Cut out that rectangle and place a line in the middle of that rectangle using the back of the knife. Then place glue in the middle of the rectangle and fold the rectangle in half as shown. Trim off any extra edges of the wide Bristol board if there are any. Next, draw lines at 1, 2, and 3 inches from the end of the rectangle using the back of the knife. Please don't press hard on the knife. Once again, take a wide Bristol board and measure it at 8 inches in length and 1 inch in width. Cut out that rectangle and place a line in the middle of that rectangle using the back of the knife. Then place glue in the middle of the rectangle and fold the rectangle in half as shown. Trim off any extra edges of the wide Bristol board if there are any. Next, draw lines at 3/4 inches, 2 3/4 inches, and 3.5 inches from the end of the rectangle using the back of the knife. Again, please don't press hard on the knife. Next, draw a rectangle on the corner of the rectangle. The rectangle should be length 1 3/4 inches and width 1/2 inch. Cut out that small corner rectangle. From the 2 3/4 inch line that we had drawn with the back of the knife, place a dot on the left hand side of that line. The dot should be 6/8 inch away from the 2 3/4 inch line. On the 2 3/4 inch line, place a dot 3/4 inch down the line. Next, place 2 diagonal lines, one connecting that line to the 6/8 inch dot away from the 2 3/4 inch line, and the other diagonal line connecting the dot to the 3.5 inch line that we had drawn using the back of the knife. Trace out those two diagonal lines using the back of the knife. The design should look like this so far. I'll leave a pit here with all the measurement to guide you further in the description below. Now let's try to fix up the inside of the card. To do that, first cut out a rectangle on a gift paper, length 1 5/8 inches and width 4 inches. Cut out that gift paper. Place glue on that gift paper and stick it on the inside of the card as shown. Trim off any extra edges of the gift paper. First taking a 4-inch length and 1-inch rectangle. Fold on all the scored lines that we had made using the back of the knife. That should form a box as shown. Next, decide where you want to stick that part of the card. I decided to stick it at 1.5 inches from the end of the inside of the card. But you may stick it 2 5/8 inches on the inside of the card if you want the swing mechanism to be higher. Taking now double-sided tape. Place double-sided tape on this edge and stick it under the mark that you placed as shown. Next, place double-sided tape on the other end of the rectangle. Lay that part of the card flat as shown and close the card. The design should form a box on the inside of the card as shown. Take now the part of the card we have drawn, the diagonal lines, and fold on the diagonal lines as shown. We are going to stick the card like this. I trim off just a little strip of the card because I find it was outside the card a bit. You may or may not have to do that. Take double-sided tape and place it on the inside of the strip and stick it as shown. Place double-sided tape on the other end of the strip and rest that part of the card flat and close the card. As you close, ensure that the part of the card with the double-sided tape is on top the box part of the card that you had stuck earlier. The design is coming out good so far. Taking the last arm of the card, we're going to stick that arm like this. So mark where you're going to stick that piece of the card using a pencil, or just place double-sided tape on that spot and stick that arm on that spot. Cut out the part of the arm if it is showing outside the card when you close it. On this part of the card, place double-sided tape and stick the rectangle with your design. Isn't it amazing so far? Measure a white Bristol board at length 2 7/8 inches and width 1/2 inch. Take double-sided tape on the edge of the arm as shown and stick the strip on the double-sided tape. Lastly, let's see about the sentiments and the ribbon. I just typed the sentiment that I wanted on a computer and print it out. You may do the same. For the first sentiment, measure scrap paper length 3 inches and width 1 1/4 inches. Cut out that scrap paper. Using that scrap paper, draw out 2 of that shape on a white Bristol board. Cut out those shapes and stick them together to form a rectangular strip. Trim off any extra edges if there are any. Next, using that same scrap paper we just cut out, trace out that shape on one of the sentiment and cut that sentiment out. Erase any pencil mark on the sentiment and stick the sentiment on the white Bristol board. Place double-sided tape or glue on the arm as shown and stick the sentiment on the arm as shown. For the second sentiment, measure scrap paper length 2¼ inches and width 3/8 of an inch. Cut out that scrap paper. Using that scrap paper, trace out that shape on the sentiment you would like. Cut out that sentiment. Decide where you want to put that sentiment on the flower. I wanted it 1 3/8 inches from the end of the flower. Place glue on that sentiment and stick it on the flower. For the last sentiment, measure scrap paper length 2 6/8 inches and width 1 3/8 inches. Cut out that scrap paper. Decide where you want to put the sentiment on the outside of the card. I wanted it 2 1/4 inches from the bottom of the outside of the card. Using that scrap paper, trace out that shape of the sentiment you would like. Cut out that sentiment. Again, always erase the pencil marks if there are any. Place glue on that sentiment and stick it in the front of the card where you would like it to be. Taking a ribbon, make 2 shoelace ties and cut those bows out. If you have a strong glue, you can stick those bows together. If you don't have a strong glue, take the ribbon and tie those bows together as shown. Cut out the extra ribbon from the tie and trim the ends of the bow to resemble a valley. Then, using a double-sided tape, stick the bows where you want it to be over the sentiment in the front of the card. Perfect. Lastly, taking a slightly damp cloth, wipe out all the glue spots if there are any. And there it is. Your pop-up swing arm card have been completed. Of course, using this method, you can make as many pop-up swing arm cards as you may like. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more videos.